Hi everyone, this is Jay Johnson with dailytexture.com. Today I'm going to do an example image to show you my workflow from start to finish and how I use Topaz Impression to create a painterly image, as well as how I use my textures to get started. So let's get going. Let me move this down out of the way. This is the texture I'm going to use for today. It's today's daily texture for February 11th, and I believe I've called it Woodland Retreat. I opened that up first. I opened it up in Paint Shop Pro and then clicked on the Photo FX Lab filter to get over here. Topaz Photo FX Lab hosts all these other Topaz programs here. And I like to work in FX Lab because I can easily access everything here without having to go back and forth between the image layer and Paint Shop Pro, and then the image and then Paint Shop Pro. This way I can do everything right here. And so I absolutely love this Photo FX Lab. Plus I do all my masking here. There is a masking tab right here. And this is where I do my masking. It has a wonderful masking program that works very well, much better than the one in Paint Shop Pro. So I pulled out an image of a turkey. This, I've resized my image. He was a little smaller than this. I raised him up in size using a slider right here that says scale, where you can raise him up. And then I lower the opacity to kind of see where he is, where his ground level is, where I want to place him. I want to place him off to the right, so I've actually scooted the photo over to move him over to the right because he's walking and I want him to have somewhere to go. So I placed him over to the right. I think he needs to be a little bit bigger than that. Let's see here. I kind of have an idea that I might want to leave some of his leaves in this little leaf right here by his feet, if you can see that right there, to kind of blend in with the texture underneath right there. And then I want to leave all of this in behind him as well. So now I have an idea of where I'm going to mask. But before I start masking, I want to do a couple things to him. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but the image is very grainy. It was shot at a high ISO, which I shoot everything at a higher ISO because I don't want to miss any action shots. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go to Topaz Denoise over here. And I'm going to lower his noise level a little bit. I'm going to choose, I usually choose moderate and then strong and then look at the face. If strong removes too much detail from the eye, I'll leave it on moderate. You can click down, left click right here to see original, and that's the one with the denoise on it. There's not a whole lot of difference between moderate and strong on the eye, so I'm going to go with strong. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's an OK button down here. I'm going to click OK. My video frame looks like it may be a little short for that screen. So this just takes a second to process. Now that smoothed everything out. Even though I'm going to blend most of that away, I just don't like a lot of noise. But now I'm going to make him a little sharper. So here's where I'm going to go to Topaz Clarity. So I click on that. Under Nature tab in Topaz Clarity, there are two presets I use quite a bit, Fur and Feathers 1 and Fur and Feathers 2, and that's because I do a lot of things with Fur and Feathers. I'm going to click 1, which you can see that was before, that's after. It just kind of boosted things a little bit. Fur and Feathers 2 will boost things and add up. Sorry, I had to cut off the video because my dog went nuts over another dog outside, and there's my bird clock in the background. I guess you guys are getting used to hearing that. My daughter gave that to me as a gift about a year or so ago, and it's quite fun to listen to the different bird sounds. Anyway, Topaz Fur and Feathers 2 under the Clarity module. is just a little bit more saturated in color. So I've got to decide whether I want to go saturated or not. There's not a whole lot of difference. I usually choose one, and then I can adjust saturation later if I want. Now, once again, I'm going to click OK on the bottom right, which you probably can't see on this screen. I just boost up his detail a little bit. Since I'm going to go into impression with this, I'm not real worried about getting extremely sharp detail. I want enough to be able to see the division between the feathers. So that boosted that up. Now I'm ready to mask this away. So I'm going to go to the masking tab. On the masking tab, brush value all the way to the left will take away this. If you move it to the right, it will put it back. Brush size, that's self-explanatory. This is my brush, this little round circle. It will adjust the size of that. Hardness, I usually leave all the way down because I want a very soft brush. Flow is like opacity. If you have it all the way to the left, it's going to fully remove everything. If you move the flow, let me show you. That's taking it completely away. Now, if I move the flow down very low, it's only taking some of it away. So I usually leave it all the way to the right to take most of it away, and then I can put back by moving brush value around. Edge aware, supposedly that's supposed to help you get in around the edges. To me, it looks kind of choppy. I can see where it would be helpful if you really wanted to maintain a sharp edge, like around a building, or if you had very strong contrast, which like right here there may be, and the edge aware may work really well to go right along his edge, but down here there's not. And I tend to like to brush away part of my subject to really blend in with the texture. If I want to get really sharp around an image, I'll use Topaz Remask, this module right here. That will enable you to create a very detailed, sharp mask of your subject. But I'm not worried about that because, like I said, I like to actually brush away some of the subject so he'll blend real well. But let's just start at full opacity here and get rid of this background. And I'm using a Wacom tablet in Intuos 5, I believe. And I'm just going to get as close as I can without erasing the bird. And then I'm going to go all the way down here. I'm going to bring some of these leaves back. Now I'm going to lower my brush size to get in closer right here. Get in around that beak. I do want the beak to show pretty good. Okay. Almost there. Get in around these feathers. And around his feet. And between his legs. And underneath him. And then right along his tail right there. Okay, that kind of gives me a good idea of what he's going to look like. Now, I'm going to work some more on this mask and decide what parts of the original leaves and such I want to show. I want to keep this one because his foot is right behind it. It would look kind of funny if I erased that off and left no feet. Plus, I just like the look of the leaves. Just going around the edges a little bit more and under his beak. And sometimes I'll just tap, like right now I'm just tapping just to take a little bit away. Okay, now I'm going to bring some of the texture over into him. So I'm going to move this flow down, raise brush size up, and just kind of gently tap and brush to actually, basically I'm taking away him, which is blending him right in with the texture. And I'm doing this with very short strokes and tapping. And if I take too much away of his detail, I can put him back. just sort of, it softens things and helps him blend a little better. I'm going to go right over those feathers and under his chest a little bit, keeping his head pretty sharp. Just blend a little bit of the top of it away. Now I'm going to put some back, so I'm going to go back to his tail, put some back, and right under here, lower the brush size a little bit more to get some of this back. And this, I want to leave that leaf and his foot and just kind of go around the edges and in the middle where I've taken away a little too much, blended a little too much. I don't want it to look choppy. I want it to look as if he and the texture have become one. There we go. Now see, we have a light area of the texture up here in this corner, which indicates there's some sunlight coming through, and he has light on him right here. If the light had been over here on this side, I probably would flip him around or flip the texture around. That's something to watch for, is where the light source is. Because if he was facing the other way, and this is obviously not where the light's coming from, the viewer's going to say, when they look at it, something's off. They may not know what it is, but they're going to just say something's off. So try to make sure your light source is where it needs to be, either by lining up your photo with it, with the texture, or switching the texture and lining it up with your subject. I like my animals facing right to left. I find it easier to work on that way. Now I'm going to raise this up, lower the brush size a little bit more, and get some of this detail back right here in this piece, around this edge right there. And bring some of the detail of that lovely little turkey leg there in this leaf. Now I've not pre-done this, so you're seeing exactly what I'm doing from start to finish right here. It may work, it may not work. If it doesn't work, I probably won't publish the video. We'll see. Okay, that looks pretty good. I do want to bring some of his leaves in through here. So I'm going to bring back some of that. I'm going to make a bigger brush, lower the flow, and just gently tap to give this but the illusion that he's walking in the woods. And he's walking on some leaves. This leaf is a little too bright, but if I bring back some of the other leaves around it, I still don't like that. Alright, now I'm going to put back some of that, go with a bigger brush, and really tap on there. And so now I've taken away that lovely little turkey leg, but I'm going to bring that back, move it over here, lower the brush, bring the flow up a little bit to bring some of it back. See, that leaf is a little bit bright. I want to leave it in there because I think it gives a good sense of place. I'm going to bring back a little bit more of the leaves right there, and a little bit more of his tail. Okay, I'm kind of happy with this. May bring back a little more of the tail detail right there. What I don't like is how bright that leaf is. And so I'm going to show you another Topaz filter that's going to help me out with this. Lens Effects. Another wonderful module. I only use a couple of things in it. There's a lot of things in it, but I only use a couple. The one I like to use is Filter Graduated Neutral Density. And you can choose different choices here to adjust your image in different locations. Right now I'm on the bottom. I'm trying to get this darker right here. So I'm trying to pick one Okay, that's original brightness. That's darker. I'm trying to pick one on the bottom. That may be a little too dark. I'm going to go with, I usually go with bottom quarter 2 stops. That's usually enough for me. And I can always come back and do it again. So I'm going to choose bottom quarter 2 stops, which darkens it just a little bit. And I'm going to come down here and click OK. It's beneath this apply button that you're seeing. Now, let me see. I'm going to undo it. That's before. And I'm going to redo it. And that's after. It darkened it a little, but not enough. So we're going back to lens effects. I'm going to run it again. I'm going to do that bottom quarter again. And here's apply, but you don't need to click that if you know you're done. The only reason you want to click apply is if you want to continue to use some of these. You would click apply on that, and then you would pick something else. But I'm just wanting to use this one. So right underneath apply, which you probably can't see on the video screen, is the OK button. So I'm clicking that. And that darkened it a little bit more. So that looks better. Okay, now I want to bring even more of the texture color into him. So I'm going to duplicate the texture layer right here. This is the layers panel. And you can choose another texture from a file or another picture to add in with this picture. You can duplicate the layer, which is what I just did. You can delete a layer. From stack is like merging all your layers, and I'll show you that when you get done. Let's put this texture layer on top. You just click and drag. And now we have layer modes, just like you do in other software, where you can go through these layer modes and pick one that may look right. And I'm at 100%, which I won't stay there. I can tell right now. And I just go through the modes and pick, usually like soft light. Okay, that's opacity all the way down. Now let's bring this up. And that darkens things a little bit. And you can click it on and off using the little eyeball. That darkened this where I like it. I'm going to actually lower that just a little bit to about close to 50%. So I like what this layer adjustment has done down here. I don't like what it's done up here quite as much. So that's when we're going to come in with some more masking. Now I can mask away the part of this texture layer I don't like. So I put my brush value all the way to the left, which is going to take it away. Raise the size up real big. I'm going to keep the flow kind of down because I don't want to remove too much at once. I just want to gradually remove some of this. And you can see right here, it's taking it away. You might go a little higher on that flow. I want that light coming down like this from this corner. I'm going to get some of this away because I don't want it to be too harsh of a transition. Now, click the eyeball on and off. That's off, that's on. It's darkened this, and it's got a little dark right there. Take that away because that was a little strong. I like what it's done right here, so I'm going to leave that corner alone. And I just go off and on with the eyeball to see how I like it. I'm going to darken this right here back a little, so I'm going to put some of that back. Make sure I get this right here. I really just want the light appearing as if it's coming from the top corner and hitting him right here. You can see by my layer that's the direction I'm going. To leave the lightness, then this layer puts this darkness through here where the white is. And I like that. So at this point, because I like that, I'm going to do what's called from stack, which is like merging my layers. And I'm going to make sure this works and doesn't leave any weird lines. Sometimes when I enlarge my photo like I did, it'll leave a weird line. But it looks pretty good. Okay, so now I have this is the merged layer. If I see something I don't like, I can delete this, go back to these layers and adjust, but I'm pretty happy with the way he looks right now. I could stop right here because I've blended the photo nicely with the texture to create this image, and I like the way he looks. But I wanted to show you guys how impression works, so I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to take it a step further. But I'm not going to work on this merged layer. I'm going to leave that alone. So I'm going to duplicate that. And on this layer of the duplicated layer, I'm going to run an impression preset and see what I can come up with. So impression will not appear right here. You have to add it as a filter right here by clicking add and remove plugins. Once you've done that, it will appear here. So I have to click that to get to impression. But notice I'm staying in FX Lab for everything. Okay, here's impression, and I've created a bunch of presets. When you click on a preset, you have this little button in the middle, which you can then click on, and you can adjust anything in here to your liking. And then you can save that. After you make changes, you can save it as a new preset. And that's what I've done with a lot of the presets because I don't like them straight out of the box all the time. So I'm going to go through here and decide what presets I want to use. What kind of look I'm after. Now see, I like the way that looks on the turkey. Once again, you can hold down on your left mouse on the image, see the before, let up off of it, and it'll show you the adjustment. You can also adjust the strength of the preset. If I wanted to lower it down and just have a little bit of it showing, you can use this right here, this little slider, and you can adjust the blend mode, which I don't usually do on this, but I know people who do. I like this, the way it has done his feathers and his feet and give it a real painterly kind of look. I don't like what it's done to the background and the ground necessarily. But I'm going to keep this one, maybe not. Let's go down through here and see. That's a real loose one. We could go very impressionistic with this guy. That might be fun. There's another impressionistic one. And I'm just trying to find something I like that's too soft. These are all presets I've created. That's a real soft look on canvas, which is kind of pretty, but I wanted to show you basically how to use impression with the layers. Okay, I'm going to go back up to now this, how I have done some of my presets is I've made a preset with big brush strokes, one with medium brush strokes, and one with small strokes. I've done that by changing the brush size and then saving it. And so this one here is large brush strokes. So I like the way the large brush strokes look in the background and down here. So I'm going to choose that. But don't worry, he's not going to look like a blob. I just wanted to create something fun. Okay, that's my large strokes layer. We're going to once again duplicate the merged image, put it on top. Now we're going to go run the medium one, medium brush strokes of that particular preset that I've saved. And of course, it always goes back to featured for some reason when I want it to stay on my presets. I have to go find it. Okay, we just ran this one, which is large strokes. Now I'm going to click on the one I've saved as medium strokes. And I'm going to click OK. And once again, duplicate the merged one, pull it on top, And this time we're going to get the preset with small strokes. And this time it went back where it was. So here's the one with small strokes that I've saved. So that shows the detail of this little fella. So I'm going to click OK. Alright, now I have 3 layers. Small strokes, medium strokes, large strokes. Large strokes is perfect for the background. And medium strokes is good for this and for parts of the bird, but not for the background. So on the medium strokes layer, I'm going to mask away all of this up here to get back to those big strokes on the layer underneath. So I've got my flow all the way up, a big brush value to the left, which is going to take away. Now this is going to bring back my big strokes. And I'm going to go right into the bird because I'm probably going to adjust this later, but this gives me some really big strokes. Okay, I don't like what it's done around the edge of the bird, so we're going to go back the other way, lower the brush, and we're going to bring back some of the medium strokes there and here. Now I want some large strokes right here, so I'll go back. That little piece right there I don't like, so I'm getting rid of it. Okay, now I have, let me see where this is coming from. There's a little, there we go. Okay. Now the bottom layer, which is the big strokes, is still showing all around through here. The medium stroke layer is showing the turkey and some of this ground level, because I've masked away the medium strokes from here to allow the large strokes from the bottom layer to show through. Now we're going to fine tune our turkey. So we're going to go to the small strokes one, turn that layer on, get on that layer, and at this point I'm going to do, I can mask it all away, which would take just a second, but I can actually click on invert, which is going to give me a solid black mask. Now I can put back where I want my small strokes to appear. So I move the brush value over. I know I want small strokes in my turkey, so I'm going to brush on him and get his detail in. His feet, his feathers, and all in here like this. And you can see your little mask over here, so you can see where you missed some spots, and you can kind of try to find those and go back over them to make sure he's all masked out. Now that has brought a bunch of small strokes into my image. This looks a little funny here, so I'm going to mask that away, which will leave some medium strokes there and give it kind of that really loose painterly look. I don't like this around there, so I've got to decide. And that's coming from the medium layer. And we definitely don't, if we turn off the medium layer, you can see the large layer underneath. Don't like that. Turn off that, you can see the detail. I guess I'm going to bring that back. I'm sorry. Mask this away and bring back that right there. And I'll just play with this, and I can lower the opacity and gently get rid of some of that, but it's still leaving that weird mark right there that I don't like. Okay, so turkey looks pretty good. He's got this weird line around him though. I think I might make another preset to better handle that. Maybe. And you can turn off your layers and see where you are. I wonder if I could just bring back. I could bring back some of the original picture right here. But I like the colors, this impressionist is giving me. I think I'm going to find another preset to better handle the right around the turkey. And you can see where your stuff is coming from by clicking on the different layers. All right, let's duplicate the merged again, put it on top. And let's go to Topaz Impression and try to pick another filter that I'm specifically looking for something that will handle this area around the turkey a little bit better. That one's too thick of paint. Degas Forest. My preset from that may work pretty good, but he's not saturated enough. That's not a problem. Let's choose that one. All right, now let's do the same thing and get rid of the whole layer by clicking on Invert. Oops. Now I can put back this right here to fix this area here. Now I know it looks like crap right now, but don't worry. I'm going to adjust the flow, bring back some of the large strokes. I don't like that, so I'm putting that back. This is looking pretty good, bringing some of this layer in. The only problem is the color. So we're going to go to Adjustments, Saturation, and I'm going to raise up the color, which is saturating it a little better. But I still have this line right here. So let me try to mask some of that away by just tapping. I still don't like that. Don't like that. That is the small layer. I don't really like what I've done. Like I said, I'm just doing this on the fly. Don't really like what I've done here with this layer, so I'm going to get rid of it. Here's your delete button. Get rid of it. Now we're back where we originally were. Still have the problem around here. If I go with the large strokes there, I have a lot of color right there. If I go with the medium, I have the line right there. And if I go with the small, I have too much small. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring back more of the small in here. We're just going to have to deal with some small strokes. And I'm got the flow set right there. I'm bringing back down. I'm just tapping to bring back some of the smaller strokes. Now I'm going to lower the flow. So I've brought some of the small strokes back in. I'm going to take some of them back out, lower that flow just a little bit more, and go the opposite direction and take some of those back out. And I'm just tapping. I've got that little aggravating piece there. So we're going to get rid of that. As I want the small strokes around his face. And around his feet. And give him some ground level there of small strokes. I know this is probably Greek to some of you still. Looks a little better. I'm still not liking that section right there. It's too light right here. And that's just the way it is. So what I might do, let's see. I might add a adjustment here to tone that down on this layer only. Let's try some lens effects to see what I can do with that spot right there. Or I could darken it, then that darkens this. I can try a reflector. Now, reflector will put gold light or silver light where you want it. Bottom, left, right, top. We are on the right side. Let's put some gold on the right side. Now that brightened everything up a little bit more and sort of helped that spot. So let me try that. I'm going to click OK and go back and see what that looks like. Yes, that fixed that little spot that looked too tan and brightened it up. It's a little bit saturated for my liking now that I'm looking at it. But that's the way it's supposed to be because I did an impressionist style, which is this particular preset was very saturated. So I'm going to merge all of these at this point, and then I'm going to play with some other things. So I'm just waiting on these to merge. I clicked on From Stack. Now I have a merged image with my impressionist technique that I've done in 3 different layers with the masking. Now, let me try duplicating the original again and putting it on top. Actually, I may put it underneath this impressionist layer to see if I can pull some color and detail back from the main layer. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm really feeling the impressionist color on this image because it needs to be a more woodsy look. Now I can desaturate it and bring the color down. So this is my painted image using impression, 3 different layers. That's my original image. Now I would like a little bit more detail in some of this area. So on the painted layer, I'm going to mask away some of this. I'm going to try to tie in the colors. Got the flow down, the brush size down because I'm going to work on his little face and just reveal some of the original image, especially around the eye and maybe right here where there's a little more detail that I want to show. And I'm going to do some of these feathers right here, bring a little more detail back. And I'm going to do some of this foot and bring some of the detail back. So it's a very light mask because I want to keep the painterly look. Beak and eyes on these birds are most important as far as detail, in my opinion. And get some of these little feathers right here, bring back from the original right here, just to make sure they have a nice structure. Okay, that's my painted layer. That's my original. And that brought back some of the detail from the original layer. I really like the tones in this one. These are still a little bright. Let's pull the saturation down. That's too much. Still like the tones in the original better, but I'm going to fix that. Just adjusting the saturation here to get it where I like it. I like that little bit of yellow color there. Okay, now I'm going to merge these. Once again, from stack. Excuse me. Okay, so I have a merged image of those 2 layers. Now I want to adjust his tones a little bit to get him looking more like the original, but now he's got these painterly brush strokes all through him. So I can do this here with highlights and shadows. Or I can go back to Topaz Clarity and see what that does. Actually, I'm going to duplicate the merged layer. Notice I have a lot of layers here. Normally I'd go a lot faster than this too, but because I'm talking and demonstrating things, it takes a little longer. So that's my fur and feathers, which boost up the clarity a little bit. Oh, that's kind of nice. Brings up a little color and more detail. See? That's the merge layer. This is after running clarity on it, which pumps up some of that detail there. And it changes the color a little bit. Lower the black level down. That's a little too much. Whoops. I let go too soon. Okay, so that's before. I'm holding down on the left mouse to see my left clicker on the mouse to see the before. This is after running clarity and doing some adjustment. And I really like the way this has handled the turkey. I still think I'd like this background to be a little bit smoother. It's a little too choppy right here. This has been a problem area in this entire image for me. So I'm going to do something else. I'm going to keep the clarity adjustment that I've just made, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and click OK. And normally this also wouldn't take this long because I wouldn't have this problem area. Or at least not usually. Alright, that's the one with the clarity adjustment. I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm going to go back to Impression because I have a filter that may work to smooth this out a little bit in the background. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try. We'll go down all the way. We've got Pastel Soft, which would smooth that out. It's a little bit saturated. We've got Simple, which would smooth it out and not be quite as saturated. I kind of like that. That is still too choppy. There's another Simple and another Simple. That Simple's pretty nice. I don't like what it's done to the color. I've got a smudge. That's too dark. I don't want that. I'm going to go back up here to one of these. It's probably Pastel Soft, which is great. But I have a little bit too much saturation. So I click on that little button here in the center so I can adjust the properties of this particular preset. And what I'm looking for is saturation. And saturation is boosted in this. So I'm going to pull this down to the middle. So that's where I was. This is where I am as far as smoothing this out. I still think it needs to be a little darker. But when I adjust contrast, it pulls back up that one area right here that I'm not happy with, although it is smoothed out a little more. So I pulled saturation down on this preset, and I brought contrast up to darken it more. That's the original. This is with the preset. And that looks pretty good. I'm specifically looking at this background to take away some of these little choppy brush strokes that appear here in the original. And I'll just click it on and off and look at it at each part of the image. That matches color pretty good. I think I'm going to go with this. So I chose my preset, reduce the saturation because it didn't need to be as saturated, and raise the contrast to further darken things here. I'm going to click OK on that preset. I didn't save that preset. I should have so I could show you, but there'll be anytime you change something, there'll be a plus button and you can save it and give it a name so I could go back to it again. Okay, that's where I was up to this point, and I was trying to calm this choppiness right here around the bird down a little bit. See those little short, choppy brush strokes? Zoom in so you can see. See how short and choppy they are? I don't really like that in the background. So I'm trying to get rid of that. So I ran this preset, which softened all that, but it also softened my turkey too much. So here's where some more masking comes in. I'll go to the masking tab, turn the flow up, brush size up a little bit, and I'm going to mask away this preset where I want the detail to remain in my turkey. I'm getting his body masked out because I know I want that detail to remain in his body. I'm trying to get it all filled in. I could just raise the brush size if I wanted, but I know I'm going to have to get down in some of these small areas. Reduce the brush size a little bit, go right here and right here to the feet because I want a detail left there. And I'm going to raise the brush size down really tiny and try to get the detail in the beak and around his head a little better and his neck. Now you can see the actual shape of my turkey here. I've brought that detail back. Now, I like what this preset has done with the background. I think it looks too watery down here. So I want to bring back some of the choppy strokes through here to show this underbrush that he's walking through. Some of it. So I'm going to reduce the flow so when I mask, I'm not masking away at whole opacity. I'm just tapping just to bring back some of those little tiny brush strokes through this foliage right here. Now I've got that looking like I want. I'm going to lower the flow a little bit more, raise the brush size, and go down along the bottom edge to bring back some of it, but not all of it, because I want it to blend in nicely. I'm going to try to smooth this out, so I'm going to go back the other way, raise the flow up a little, and try to come in here, because I know this was a little smoother. Let's raise it all the way up. And let's bring it back down. And this is just an all back and forth. What looks right. Smooth this a little bit right here because his tail needs to be fading into the background. Now that's before with all the little choppy strokes. This is after that next preset I ran, an impression, to smooth that out a little bit and smooth some of this out, but still maintain the detail right here. And I'll just do this, turning it on and off to see where I want what. I'm pretty happy with that. So once again, I'm going to do from stack to merge those layers. So that really toned down those choppy brush strokes in the background that I didn't like. Now I'm going to do a little bit more adjustment, a little bit more fun. I'm going to see if there's any color tones I might like better than this. I'm going to duplicate that layer and I'm going to go to Topaz Restyle. Topaz Restyle has hundreds, thousands of presets in these different collections here, and you can add your own collections of presets. That's a whole nother video. I'm on the landscape one, and it shows you the different ones that you can pick from, and these are shown at full opacity. They're very strong, very harsh. I'll try to find one that may have a look like what I want, if any, for my turkey. I may like him just the way he is. I'm just scanning down through to see if anything jumps out at me that might look better. This is really nice if you say you do an image and you have a client. Okay, let's pretend. Let's say you do an image like I've done and you have a client that says, well, I like that, but I would like a little bit more lighter brown tones for my space. Here's one called Oak Stain. So that's more browns rather than golds. So let's click on that. Okay, when I've clicked on that, it shows it at 100% opacity. You can click on, hold down your left mouse button, see your original, and there. So say I ran into somebody yesterday that she said she really likes the earth tone textures that I make. That she's just really hooked on earth tones. This oak stain looks more earthy. So let's pretend she's a client and I show her this and she says, well, I like this image, but it's a little bit too gold, a little bit too bright. I'd like it to be more earthy. You can go into Restyle and find a more earthy preset for the image. And now that may suit her fine, or you can adjust the opacity. Like this is all the way down, showing my original image as is, and after running this preset, this is all the way up. But let's say I want to meet somewhere in the middle and have just a little bit of glow. So let's try about 60%. So that's before and that's after. You see how it toned that down and gives the client what they want with more earth tones? Knowing this client, I know that she would think that was too bright and she would prefer this over this. Let's try lowering it a little more. I like the one with the gold in it, the golden tones, because I just really like those. She might even think that is still too gold. Let's go about 50%. If all else fails, meet in the middle. So this is before. This is this particular preset at 50% or right around 50%. I never can get it exactly. You can also adjust other things in Restyle for that particular preset. And then they have an option, once you've adjusted things, they have a plus button down here where you can save that preset as a new preset, which I could do. I don't usually do it because I usually just adjust them on the fly right over here. And I usually don't mess with these too much because there's so many presets. As you scan down through, you can see all the different ones. But like I said, it shows them all at 100% opacity, and then you have to adjust it right here. But that's before, that's after. So I like that. I think the client will like that. I'm going to click OK. Once again, bottom right corner, you probably can't see it on the screen. All right. So turning off this, that's where I started with adjusting colors. This is where I've ended up. I might like a little bit more gold to show right here and maybe right here. So let's try to do a little masking on this layer. Just a little, because the client really doesn't want all that golden color. She likes more earth tone, but I like gold, so I want a little bit in there. So I've lowered my brush size down pretty small. The flow is down low, and I'm just going to gently come in through here and just gently brush over some of this to bring back some of the golden tone right there and some of it right here on the neck, as if the sunlight's coming down through here and hitting right there. Okay, that's before. This is after. You could go with a little bit more of the golden tone being revealed right here. Just a little. And maybe right here on these little pieces. And I'm doing this at a very low flow opacity because I don't want it to be too harsh. Like if you did it way over here, you're going to have a lot harsher adjustment, see? And that may be a little too harsh for this client that I'm pretending to have. So Control Z on a PC will undo what I just did. So that's what I'm doing. Just undoing some of that. So this is before, this is after, with a little bit of masking done to reveal a little bit of that glow right through here. Like the sun is coming through and his feathers are picking it up. Maybe a little bit right here too. And maybe on the back of the leg just a little. Now, I'm liking this a lot, but when I get to this point, I will zoom out on the image and look at it from a distance, as if I was looking at it across the room from far away. That looks really nice. We've got light coming in here, hitting there. Nothing is too bright on the turkey. Raise it back up as if I'm walking closer to it across the room. And I can even zoom in really close. Turn it off, on. I like it. It's got a painterly look now thanks to Topaz Impression. It's got the color tones that I like. Well, actually, I know my client will like, because she prefers more earth tones than this golden tone. So I'm going to merge these. Once again, from stack is going to merge everything. Now I've gone a long way, and I'm going to show you where I was to start with just merging the photo with the texture. I'm going to pull that one up to the top once I find it. I believe it is right here. Drag this all the way to the top if I can get it up there. It moved it. Okay, that's where I was when I merged the original photo with the texture. This is where I've ended up to create a painterly version using Topaz Impression and Restyle to adjust some colors. So that was just fine like that. But let's say this client wanted something a little bit more artistic, painterly. This is where I've ended up. So you can do it either way. It just depends on the look you're after, the type of work you're creating for whoever or whatever market you're creating it for. That was before, just the photo merged with texture like I normally do. Then here is the painterly version. Now I can move this out of the way down here. I'm going to stick with this painterly version. I have all these layers right here that took all of that to get to this. But like I said, this is a long video, almost an hour long now, way too long because I ramble. But it will go a lot faster when I'm not talking and showing things. I could probably finish this in 30 minutes. Now at this point I could leave this alone and this client would probably be very satisfied with it. Or what I would probably do, knowing me, because Topaz Impression is an auto painting program, and it's a good one. It does do a good job, especially when you have different presets with, say, different brush sizes in each one, like I showed you, where I had a large brush size on that preset, a medium one, and a small one, so I could kind of tie everything in. That works out really good. This particular image looks pretty good as is, but I'm not one for liking auto painting. I like this particular auto painting program and what is done, but I don't. What I want to do is add my own special touch to it. So from here, what I would do with this image is save it as one name, and then I would take it into Corel Painter, where I would then add my own brush strokes where I want to, or maybe even do a little bit of blending here in the feathers. Do a little bit of blending to make those flow a little bit better or it's like right here. Maybe smooth. There's the eye looks a little bit spotty right there, so I might smooth out the beak and the eye with a blender brush. And then just add some more interesting brush marks around here, or maybe even down here, so it can have my own personal touch to it instead of just being straight from Impression and having it all done by a software program. I like to do my own brush marks and blending, so I would probably take this into Painter. I can't show that because for some reason if I try to run the video software in Painter on my system, it will crash my system, and I don't want to lose what I've done here. So I'm going to stop the video here. I will take this into Painter and see what I can come up with, and I will show both images, this particular one plus when I've added my own brush strokes, what I've done to it. I will show that as well. In the meantime, for textures, for all my other videos, visit dailytexture.com. And I hope you found this helpful in how I use Topaz Impression, how my workflow works with Topaz Photo FX Lab. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a note. All right. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.